Okay, so yeah, so let's begin. So our goal for today is to be able to identify the rules in naming molecules, especially the ionic compounds and the binary compounds or the covalent compounds. No? So why? Because as long as you know the name of your chemicals, the name of your substances, hindi ka misinformed, no? Hindi ka madadala ng fake news, no? Bakit, no? In the end of this discussion, may share ako sa inyong kwento. This happened in United States, no? May kinalaman itong lesson na ito doon sa nangyari sa US, no? So, but just simply being misinformed about the names of your formulas, about the names of your chemicals, pwedeng magdulot yun ng harm sa iyo, no? Or pwede kang maging, pwede kang maging laughing stock kung tawagin na. So, yan. So, our goal for today is to be able to know how to name some compounds, no? Chemical substances, no? Okay, so yan lang naman goal natin. Alamin yung rules in naming and identify their chemical formulas from the names and vice versa. No? So, kaya ito. Madali lang to. No? This will be the third time this topic will be discussed to you. No? The first one is in your junior high school. The second one is your senior high school sa Gen Chem or physical science. No? And this is the third time. No? So, you should be familiar with most of the contents of this lesson. Ano? Okay, so let's begin with ions, no, or ionic compounds. Okay, so we have two types of ions, diba? We have the cations and the anions, no. So what do we know about cations? So cations are the atoms that loses electron for it to be stable. Usually, our cations are the metals, no. While our anions, these are atoms that gain the electrons in order for it to be stable. Okay, so usually non-metal sila. Cation, metal, anion, non-metal. Usually, okay? So yun yung ganap nila. So as these atoms gain electron or loses electrons, no? Pag nag-gain or lose sila, may corresponding consequence yun in terms of their charges, no? So when atoms loses electron, they become positively charged particles, which we call the cations. When when atoms gain electrons naman, on the other hand, they will be negatively charged particle, no? Because of the excess number of electrons, no? So yun, anong nangyayari? Nagiging charged particles yung atom natin as they lose or gain electrons. If they become positively charged, we call them cations. Pag negatively charged, anions. And what do we know about these two charged particles, no? According to the law of electrostatics, no, which is one of the fundamental forces in the universe, no, ah, apat yun eh, no? So, sila yung mga dahilan kung ba't nagka-Big Bang, no? So, one of the fundamental forces in the universe is the law of electrostatics, which states that positively charged particles are attracted to negatively charged particles. So, what happens is that pag yung positively charged cation mo and yung negatively charged anion mo, nagdikit sila, they will form an ionic compound, no? So, yeah. So, again, when we say ionic compound, we have two components here. The cation component and the anion component, no? So, yun. Bakit sila nag-a-attract, no? Kasi yun yung batas ng kalikasan, no? If they have opposite charges, then they will attract talaga, no? Okay? So, yun yung idea. So, how are we going to name ionic compounds then? No? So, to name ionic compounds, we should be able to name the cations first and the anions. No? So, kailangan alam natin yung naming processes for the two. No? So, this could be tricky no, for some, pero uh, as long as you have your PowerPoint with you, you can open this during quiz naman. No? So, I'm giving you liberty. No? Kung kabisado nyo siya, better. If hindi kabisado, you need to rely on your notes, okay lang, no? So, that's totally understandable for me, no? But yun, so, kailangan alam natin yung rules in naming, no? So, let's begin with our cations, no? So, our cations, we can classify them into two. We have the metal cations and the non-metal cations, no? May non-metal na cation, sir. Meron po, no? Mamaya makikita natin yan. So, yan yung dalawang classification natin. We have the metallic cations and the non-metallic cations, no? And yung metal cations natin, we can further categorize them into two, no? So, ang sabi ng pusa ko, yung isang category daw ay one charge only. Yung isang category ay two or more charge, no? So, yan. So, it should be you should be able to distinguish what type of metal do you have, no? So paano natin, sir, ma-distinguish? Easy lang, just look at the periodic table, then you will see kung ano yung rules na pwede gamitin natin for certain atoms, no? Okay, so let's begin, no? Wala, skip na natin yan. Okay, so rule number 1 in naming cations. So the rule number 1 pertains to metals that only have one charge, no? Specifically, those metals are found on the S and the P blocks, no? So sila yung usually na ganyan, no? So sila yung usually na nagfo-fall sa rule number 1. So if you have a metal in the S and the P blocks, no, you name the cations from metals using the name of the metal itself, no? So ibig sabihin lang nun, the name of the metal ion is the name of the metal itself, no? So meaning nun, wala kang gagawin, no? Pag naging charged particles yan, yung pa rin pangalan niya, no? Okay? So kanino to nag-a-apply na rule? For metals in the S and the P orbital, and one lang yung charge, no? Only one charge. Okay, so isa lang yung charge dyan, no? So yan yung mga kailangan natin i-recognize na. So again, yung ating metal, pag nasa S and P orbital at isa lang yung charge na kaya niya. So, ang name ng ion niya ay yung name na rin niya mismo, no? So, wala na tayong gagawin masyado. So, let's see. Potassium, no? So, potassium is in the S block, di ba? So, siya yung nasa first group sa periodic table, no? And what do we know again about the first group elements, no? So, in first group elements, they have one valence electrons, no? And those valence electrons are lost, no, to be stable, no. So yung isang valence electron ipapamigay niya. As it do so, it will be positively charged, no. So for group 1, positive 1 yung charges nila regardless of what atom is that, no. So si potassium, si sodium, positive 1 yung mga charges nila, no. Okay. So ano yung name nila? So again, their name is the name of the metal itself, no. So yung K+, ang name niya ay potassium ion. Ang K, potassium ion din. Potassium lang, no. So yun. So Na+, ang name niya ay sodium. Ang Na ay sodium pa rin, no. So yun. You just copy the name, no. Si calcium and magnesium, they can be found on group 2 naman, no. So again, what do we have with group 2? Group 2 metals, no, have two valence electrons, no, and those valence electrons are usually given off, no, for them to be stable. Okay, so as a consequence, they will have a charge of positive 2, no. So yan. So ano yung name ng calcium, magnesium at ions natin? Oo, naming. Okay, so ano yung name nila? Edi yung name pa rin ng metal, no. So yan. So let's have aluminum naman. So si aluminum, this is in the p orbital, pero metal siya, no? So what is the charge, no? Since aluminum is in group 3, no? So ibig sabihin, positive 3 yung charge niya. Kasi may 3 valence electrons siya. Okay? So ano yung magiging name niyan? Al3+, no? As is pa rin, no? Its name will be aluminum pa rin, no? Aluminum or aluminum ion, no? Okay. So pwedeng aluminum na, no? Okay? So yun lang yung idea. For metals that can be found in the S and P blocks of your periodic table, and it only have one charge, no? The name of the ion is the name of the metal itself, no? Kokopyahin mo lang yung name. Sir, paano namin malalaman yung charges ng metal? So, simple lang yan. Just look at the group number. So, for group 1, their charges are usually positive 1, no? For group 2, their charges usually positive 2 yan, no? Group 3, ito, positive 3 usually. Sir, how about the metals in the group 4, group 5, no? Mostly non-metals kasi yung mga nandun na, no? And may d orbitals na sila. So, ito yung pinaka-common rule na lang, no? So, group 1, positive 1 yung charge niya. Group 2, positive 2 yung charge. Group 3, positive yung charge. Then yung group 4 and beyond, no? You just check the periodic table na lang, no? Because everything gets messy when you have d orbitals and f orbitals, no? Okay, so yun lang. We're just focused on the s and the p orbitals for now. Kasi yun yung madali kunan ng properties. Okay, so yan. So yan yung rule number 1. For S&P block, pag group 1, positive 1, group 2, positive 2, group 3, positive 3. No? So the name of the ions ng atoms ay yung name na nila mismo. Wala ka nang gagawin na iba. No? Okay, so sir, paano naman yung nasa D and F orbitals? No? Doon na tayo sa second rule. So kanina, ang focus natin ay S&P blocks, no? So how about those in the d orbital and the f orbital, no? So dito na papasok yung next rule, no? So this focuses on d and f orbitals, no? The metals that can be found in the transition metal and the inner transition metal group, na. Okay. So, ano ba meron sa kanila, sir? Bakit parang special sila? Yes, special sila for the reason that they have d and f orbital, no? Okay. So if your atom contains d and f orbitals kasi, they can accommodate more electrons or they can lose more electrons as well. So marami silang option. Hindi sila limited sa 1 to 8 electrons. Pwede sila na magpasa octet rule eh. So ibig sabihin nun, they have multiple options to which charge they want to form, no? Kung ano yung gusto nila gawin, gagawin nila, no? Such as iron. Look at iron. Ang two common charges ni iron ay positive 1 and positive 3. Sir, parehas lang ba yun? Hindi yan parehas, no? Okay. So, iba yung properties ni positive 2, iba yung chemical properties ni positive 3. Yes, isang atom yan, pero multiple yung charges, no? So, sir, paano ko yan papangalanan, no? So, yun yung question. Ganito kasi, if we name Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus the same, kunwari, same lang yung pangalan nila, walang distinction, no? Hindi mo alam kung sino yung 2 plus, sino yung 3 plus, no? So, medyo weird kasi yun yung kailangan natin, no? Kasi sabi ko kanina, magkaiba yan ng chemical properties, di ba? So, kailangan, they should have different names as well, no? Para malaman natin yung distinction between the two, no? Okay, so, ano yung ginawang remedyo, no? So, hindi natin susundin yung rule 1 dito, no? Kasi yung rule 1, this only applies if isa lang yung charge ng atom mo, no? And predictable yung charges based on the groups, no? Pero, for D and F orbitals, since iba-iba yung charges nila, hence we have to make another rule, no? This is called the stock method. Okay, so ano meron tayo dito sa stock method, no? So, ganito daw yung rule sa pag-name ng mga metals with multiple charges, no? Multiple charges. Oh, namingming. Okay. So, paano natin sila lumabas na siya. Okay, so paano natin sila papangalanan na? So, ganito lang daw. Sabi ni stock method, you just copy the name of the metal, no? So, kung ito, Fe, iron yan. Ang Cu, copper, copyin mo lang, no? Iron, iron, copper, copper. No? Then, ano daw susunod na gagawin? For you to distinguish the charges, no, para makita nyo yung difference sa charges, you have to indicate it using Roman numerals. No? For example, we have positive 2 here for Fe2+. That means its name should bear the Roman numeral 2 enclosed in a parenthesis. No? Para ito, Fe3+. No? So, dapat, ang name niya, makita natin yung 3+ sa name niya. That's why its name is iron 3, ion. No? So, yung 3 that tells you that its charge is positive 3. Sir, paano ka positive 5 yan? Eh, di Roman numeral 5, no? So on and so forth, no? Okay, so by doing this, no, we can now distinguish one ion to the other, no? So that means mas maganda na siya i-work around, no? So alam na natin yung difference ng ions, eh. Di mas maganda yung characterization processes natin in the future, no? So I will give you another example. Let's have chromium. Cr2 plus. Alam ko marami pang versions yung chromium, pero I'll stick with this muna. No? So si chromium, marami siyang charges, no? But the charges that I could remember is etong tatlo na to, no? Or this three, no? Chromium 2, chromium 3, chromium 6, no? So if I'm going to name this ions as chromium lang, iba-iba yung chemical reactivities ng kada ion. So maguguluhan lalo ako, no? So for me to distinguish one ion to the other, ano gagawin ko? Ang sabi ng stock method, you copy the name, no? Chromium. Naantok na yung sulat ko. Ang init-init sa bahay. Ayun, so yan. So chromium, chromium, chromium. Kopyahin mo lang yan. Then you include the charges using Roman numerals enclosed in parentheses. No? So this is 2. So its name will be chromium 2. This is 3. So its name will be chromium 3. And this is 6. No? So chromium 6. No? Alam nyo naman yung Roman numerals. No? So yan. So, by the way, caps lock yung numbers natin, ha? Caps lock yung Roman numerals na. So, yun. Kasi baka mamaya sa quiz small caps nyo. Mamamali kayo pag ganun na. So, caps lock lang kapag number. Okay? So, that's the stock method, na. So, again, when do we use the stock method, no? Kailan natin ginagamit yung second rule natin? So, we only use this second rule if we have multiple charges. And this rule usually applies to metals with D and F orbitals na. Pag may D and F orbitals na sila, meaning nun nasa baba na sila ng third period sa periodic table. No? Nasa 4 pababa na. Fourth period pababa. No? Such as those in the inner transition and the transition metals. No? So, basta may D and F orbital, they can form multiple charges. No? And for you to be able to distinguish those charges very well, you need to use the stock method. Copy the name of the metal, enclose in the parentheses the charge, no? Represented by Roman numerals. No? So that's the second rule. No? So tayo sa ikatlong batas. No? So ano naman to? No? So yung ano kasi, yung stock method, no? yung previous rule natin. That was the recent rule. Recent na yun, no? Kamakailan lang yan. Bakit, no? Kasi only recently lang tayo nakadiscover ng maraming atoms. Recent lang yung halos karamihan ng atoms, no? Pero it doesn't mean na dati hindi nila alam yung ions. Alam na nila yung ions dati pa, no? So ibig sabihin, there is an old naming system before the stock method, no? Bago to magawa, may old system, no? And we call that the common system or the common system or common naming. Common names. No? Okay, so ito yung old method ng naming, no? So, kailan to nag-a-apply? This only applies when your atoms, no, have two charges only. Two common charges, no? So, dalawa lang yung charges niya. So, ibig sabihin nun, kung babalikan natin to, itong chromium, hindi siya gagana dito sa third rule natin. Bakit? Ano yung requirement sa third rule? The requirement is dalawa lang yung charge. Anything beyond that is hindi gagana dito sa third rule. Sir, luma na yan. Ba't kailangan yan? Ito kasi, no, ginagamit to sa pharmacy. No? So, kung may mag-medicine sa inyo, ayun, mas magiging familiar kayo with the names, no, ng mga metals na to na ginagamit sa gamot, no. So yun, kasi convention na lang, tanggapin na lang natin. Okay, so again, this third rule will not apply to metal atoms that form multiple charges, no. Hanggang dalawa lang yung charge na pwede dito. So meaning yung tatlo and above, hindi na pwede, no. Okay, so paano yung ginagawa, sir? Ganito lang. So balikan natin yung Fe natin, Fe and copper. Ang Fe kasi, ang usual charge niya is positive 2 and positive 3. Si copper, positive 1 and positive 2. I will add some. Si lead, usually 2 plus and 4 plus yan. No? Okay. So yan, focus tayo dito. So, paano po yung naming process sa common method? So, madali lang yung common method process, no? So, ganito lang. Ayan. So, paano yan, no? Remember, yung ating metal, yung atomic symbol natin, itong Fe, itong Cu, itong Pb, meron yung old representations, no? Kasi mga lumang elements yan, kaya ganyan yung pangalan nila. No? Yung iron natin, ang old name niyan in Latin ay ferrum, no? Kaya Fe siya. No, hindi siya Ir. Ang Ir kasi ay iridium ba 'yun? No? So yan. So yung Cu naman, hindi yan copper, no? Hindi siya copper. Kasi ang old name niyan ay cuprum, no? Which is copper today, no? Si Pb, ano kaya yung old name niyan? In Latin, ang name niyan ay plumbum. Plumbum, kaya bahala, plumbum. Basta ganyan yung old names nila, no? Plumbum, cuprum, ferrum, no? So, yan. So, ito yung mga old names nila. Ito yung kukunin natin, no? So, sir, paano kung wala silang old name? For example, cobalt, no? Edi, wala kang gagawin, no? Kopyahin mo lang yung name mismo, no? Okay? Pero if possible na may old name siya, yun yung kukunin natin, no? Okay, so, punta tayo dito, no? So, ano gagawin natin dito sa old names nila? So, ito yung first technique daw, no? In naming our ions in the common system, no? So, you remove the no? Tanggalin mo yung mga sa dulo. So, you will have the root words, no? Kunwari, di ba, ferrum yan, no? The root word will be fer, no? F-E-R-R, no? Si cuprum naman, ang kanyang magiging root word ay copper. C-U-P-R. Oh, copper. Kaya na siya naging copper. Si plumbum, no? So siya. Tanggalin mo yung you will be left with plumb, no? So yan. So yun yung first technique dito. Sa common method, no? You remove the ending for Latin names, no? So tanggalin mo yung mga you will be left with the root words, no? Then, after doing that, you will affix suffixes, no? The suffixes could be either us or ik, no? Pwedeng us ang suffix, pwedeng ik, no? So, kailan siya magiging us, no? The us suffix will be used if the charge is the lowest charge, no? And the suffix ik will be used for the highest charge, no? So, ganun gagawin natin, no? So, let's look at the ions, no? Lagyan ko lang ng border para hindi tayo malito. Yan. Although, nandiyan yung sagot, no? Kunwari hindi nyo nakikita. Okay. So, us and ik, no? So, ano gagawin natin dito? After obtaining the root name of your metal name, no? Kinuha natin yung mga root name by removing the no? Sabi natin, we will affix these suffixes, no? So, us will be given to the lowest charge ion, and ik will be given to the highest charge ion. So, let's look at the ion. So, we have positive 2 and positive 3. Okay. So, 2 is the lowest, no? So, we should give this ion the us suffix, no? So, yung ferrum, gagawin mong ferrous, no? Hence, you have the name ferrous, no? Familiar ba kayo with ferrous? Dapat lang, kasi nasa ferrous sulfate yan, no? Yung iniinom yung kulay pula na lasang bakal, no? Especially pag anemic, no? Okay, so yan. Ferrous sulfate, no? So, yung ferrous doon, Fe2 plus yon, kaya lasang bakal yon, no? Okay. So, yan. 2 plus us yan kasi siya yung mababa. Yung 3 plus, ito yung mataas na charge, no? So, it should bear the suffix ik, no? So, yung ferrum, magiging ferric, no? So, magiging ik na yung suffix niya. Okay. So, ganun lang. So, let's have copper, no? Positive 1, positive 2. The lowest is positive 1. So, it will bear the suffix us, no? So, its name will be cuprous, no? Positive 2 is the highest of the two, no? Siya mas mataas kaysa sa positive 1. So, it will bear the suffix ik, no? Cupric, no? Let's have lead, no? So, between 2 and 4, the lowest is 2. So, anong gagawin natin? We will give this the suffix us, no? So, its name will be plumbus. Yan, plumbus. And yung positive 4, since siya yung highest charge, we will give this the suffix ik, no? So it will be plumbic, no? Okay, so yan. So ganyan gumagana ang common method, no? So again, how do we use the common method, no? So you get the old name, usually the Latin name, you get the root word, no? Pero kung hindi yan Latin name, wala kang gagawin, no? You just copy the name, no? So yan. So copy mo lang yung name. For example, cobalt, no? So cobalt na talaga yan. Wala naman siyang sa dulo, eh. Okay? Then ano gagawin? You differentiate the two charges, no? It could be the lowest or the highest charge of the two, no? So pag lowest, you give it the suffix us. Pag highest, you give it the suffix ik, no? Such as ferrous, ferric, no? Ano yung downside dito, no? Ito yung downside. Unang downside, applicable lang siya for two charges, no? So ibig sabihin, if you have more than two charges, such as chromium, na sobrang daming charge, no? Vanadium as well, 5 yung oxidation number nun, alam ko eh. Sa pagkakaalala ko lang, 5 ata, no? Okay. So, this rule will not apply to those ions, no? So, yan. Yan yung first limitation niya. So, yan yung unang dahilan kaya pangit siya. Limited siya to two charges only. So, paano kapag tatlo na yan? Yung highest may name, yung lowest meron din. Pero ano yun, nasa gitna, wala silang pangalan, no? So, yun yung downside, no? Of using the common name method. Ano pa yung second downside? The second downside would be ganito. Kunwari, hindi ko ibibigay sa inyo yung ions. Ayan. Pinakita ko lang yung names, no? Ito yung mga names nila. And I want you to get the ion formula. Ano yung mga charges nila? Okay, so ganito. Tingin tayo sa ferrous and ferric. No? Ngayon, hindi nyo alam yung charges nila, di ba? Okay. So ganito. Alam ko yung us, ito yung lowest. Ang ik, ito yung highest. Ang question doon, by how much? Ano yung starting point ko? Ang us ko ba ay positive 1, positive 2, positive 3? Hindi ko sure. Ang ik ko ba ay positive 2, positive 3, positive 4? Hindi ko rin sure. No? So, yun yung downside ng common method. No? So, the downside of common method is that you cannot distinguish the charge. No? Only the rank of the charge no? Ang kaya ma-distinguish. No? Alam mo, ito yung mababa, ito yung mataas. By how much? Nakalimutan ko po. No? Ganun yung usual problem dito. No? And I even encountered it personally when I was in high school. No? Quiz namin to nung third year high school kami. Way back 2009, no? 2009. Ay, hindi pala 2009. 2010 nga pala ako nag-high school. 2014 ako nag-college. Mga 2013 yan. Third year high school ako yan. Way back 2013, nakalimutan ko yung charge ng us pati ng ik for iron. So yun, nagkamali ako sa items na yan. So doon nagkaroon ako ng hatred sa system na to. Hindi naman hatred. Nakabisado ko rin in the future. Pero yun lang yung pangit sa kanya. No? You cannot distinguish the number itself. Alam mo lang, ito mababa kasi us, ito ik, mataas. Pero hindi ko alam kung ano yung number. Ito, Coprus, ano ba yan? Positive 1, positive 2, positive 3. Itong ik, positive 2, positive 3, positive 4, di ko alam, no? So, yun lang yung downside niya, no? Compared to the stock method, no? Kasi tingnan niyo ano meron sa stock method. So, sa stock method kasi, other than giving you the identity of the atom, which is iron, copper, chromium, may kita mo rin yung corresponding charge na mismo, no? So, alam mo, itong iron 2 na to, ang formula talaga niyan, Fe2+. So, hindi ka magkakamali, di ba? Ito, Fe3+, yan, kasi iron 3, no? This is chromium 6. So, ang formula na yan ay Cr6+, no? So, yun. So, ano yung good thing dito sa stock method, no? Hindi ka na malilito kung ano yung actual charge because the charge is given already, no? Nasa name na mismo yung charge, no? So, yun yung good thing dito, no? That's why in chemistry, we usually use this method, no? Medyo tinatanggal na namin yung common name system, eh. Binubura na namin to sa aming mga textbooks, no? Although, yun, ginagamit to sa pharmacy. So, you should be familiar with this one, no? Lalo na kung may magme-medicine sa inyo, no? And kayo yung nagde-deal ng mga medicines din in the future. So, kailangan alam nyo rin yung naming process dyan. Okay? So, yan. So, let's have a look ulit. No? So, balik ulit tayo sa umpisa. The first rule, sabi dyan, if your metal only have one charge, no? The name of the ion is the name of the metal itself, no? This usually applies for metals that can be found on the S and the P blocks, no? Pero if your metal, no, have multiple charges because of the presence of D and F orbitals, no? So you can use the stock method, no? So paano ginagawa yan? You just copy the name. And yung charge nila, ilalagay mo sa parenthesis, no? Accordingly. Mga ganyan. Roman numeral yung nasa parenthesis, hindi siya number, no? Okay. Then yung third rule naman, this applies for metals with two charges, no? This is the old method, no? Or the common method, no? So, paano ginagawa dito? You get the old name, no? Kunin mo yung lumang name nila, then you add the suffix us and ik, no? The us will correspond to the ion with the lowest charge. The suffix ik will correspond to the ion that has the highest charge. So, ganun lang, no? And last one for cations, no? So, this is the fourth type of our cation. Um, remember, distinguish natin sila, di ba? Ano yung sabi natin? So, tapos na tayo sa metals, no? Yung isa lang yung charge. You just copy the name of the metal itself. Pag two or more charges, you have two options, the stock method and the common method, no? And the last one, non-metal cations, no? So, yung non-metal cations natin, dalawa lang sila, thankfully, no? So, it would be easier for us to remember the two of them na lang. Kabisaduhin na lang natin, dalawa lang yan eh. Okay. Mas mahirap pa magkabisado ng phone number kaysa dito. Okay. So, ano yung dalawang non-metal cations natin, no? It is H plus and NH4 plus, no? So, paano natin malalaman, sir, na sila ay non-metal cations, no? Look at the ending, no? They both end at with the suffix -um, no? IUM, no? So, pag nakakita kayo ng name na IUM, no? Yung suffix niya, that means non-metal cations yun, no? So, dalawa lang yan, no? So, let's look. H plus, this is hydronium ion. This is derived from the hydrogen atom, no? If hydrogen atom loses an electron, it will become H plus in charge, no? So, pagiging positive 1 siya. Okay, so yung name niyan, kinuha lang din sa hydrogen, no? Pwede namang hydrogenium, no? Kaso ang pangit pakinggan no? Hydrogenium, masyadong mahaba. So, kinompress na lang nila, ginawa nilang hydronium, no? Di ba? Then, the next ion is NH4 plus, no? So, NH4 plus, its name is ammonium. It is derived from ammonia, NH3. If you added hydronium ion to your ammonia, magiging ammonium ion yan. Tatlo yung hydrogen, plus 1, plus isama mo ba yung charge, you will have NH4 plus. Okay, so ammonium ion is derived from ammonia, no? So, kabisaduhin na lang natin. And you should be familiar with ammonium because it is in the news recently, no? The Beirut blast, no? Yung sumabog sa Beirut, no? Ayan, no? So, may ammonium ions, yan, no? So, ganyan lang, no? Okay, so dalawa lang yan, no? So, again, let's recall the rules for the cations. Rule number 1, pag one charge lang, yung name ng metal ay yung name itself. Tapos na. Rule number 2, if you have multiple charges, you do the stock method. Just copy the name and include the charge using Roman parentheses, no? Roman numbers enclosed in parentheses. Roman parentheses. Basta yun. Basta yan. Lagyan mo yung number, lagyan mo ng parentheses. Yun na yun. Yun na yung stock method. Very easy, di ba? The third process, no, or the third way of naming cations is ganito, no? If you have multiple charges, pero dalawa lang dapat, no? If you have two charges, you can use the common method, no, where you make use of the old names, no? You get the root name by removing the sa Latin name, no? Tanggalin mo yung mga dyan. Then you affix the suffix us and ik, no? So, yan. So, yan lang. So, the us will represent the lowest charge. The ik will represent the highest charge, no? And last one, ito yung for non-metals naman, no? So, dalawa lang sila. Just remember them. H plus and NH4 plus. H plus is hydronium ion and H4 plus is ammonium ion. Saan derive yung ammonium ion? Sa ammonia. Ang hydronium ion, saan siya derive? Sa hydrogen atom. No? Okay, so ganun lang, ka-easy. No? So, yan. Punta naman tayo sa anions kasi we're done with cations. No? So, we are able to distinguish our cations very easily. Just look at the charge, no? Or just look at the location of the atom, no? So, pag nasa S&P block, alam mo na isa lang yung name nun. Pag nasa D and F orbital, doon na siya dumadami yung naming process, yung naming systems na. Okay, so let's have anions. No? So for anions, again, these are negatively charged particles, no? Because they gained electrons. No? So let's have the rule number 1. So we have monoatomic ions. No? Their names usually end with the suffix "ide", ide. No? Okay, so yun yung kanilang mga names. No? For example, sodium chloride. No? So ibig sabihin doon, yung chloride, yun yung anion mo doon. Yung sodium, since metal name yun, edi yun yung cation mo. So, ganun ha. So, yung mga may ide-ide sa dulo, sila yung mga anions. No? So, yan. Monoatomic anions will have the suffix ide. No? So, ide. No? So, yan. So, H minus, pag sinabi natin monoatomic atom, no, ion, ibig sabihin lang, isang atom lang yan. Ito, isang atom, H lang yan. Ito, isang atom, O lang yan. Ito, Cl lang. Ito, Br lang. So, monoatomic anions yan. Okay? So, H minus, its name will be hydride, no? Hindi siya hydrogenide, no? So, you remove the ending part, no? Para medyo maganda pakinggan, no? So, you will not name this as hydrogenide. Instead, you will name this as hydride, no? O minus 2, no? Or oxygen negative 2. Ang name niya would be oxide, not oxygenide, no? Baka mamaya may gumamit ng ganun eh, no? So, hindi siya oxygenide ha. Oxide na. Parang maganda pakinggan. Cl minus, its name will be chloride na. Hindi chlorinide na. Ang alam nyo naman yung naming, medyo pagandahan na lang sa tenga to eh. No? Kaya, kailangan nyo talaga maging familiar na lang. No? So, Br minus is not brominide. Instead, bromide na. So, yan. So, yung mga ide-ide yung pinalit nila sa ending ng mga atom names na. Sir, paano namin malalaman yung charges ng monoatomic ions? So, easy lang. No? So, pag group 1, this only applies for hydrogen. No? Yung hydrogen lang. Its charge can be negative 1. No? Pwede rin siyang positive 1. Pwede rin negative 1. No? So, versatile kasi si H+. No? Si H. No? Pwede siyang mag-lose, pwede siyang mag-gain ng electron. Depende sa trip niya sa buhay. No? So, yan na lang natin siya. No? So, yan. So, hydrogen sa group 1, its usual charge is negative 1. Although, it can be positive 1 din. No? Okay. So, pwede siya maging positive 1. Pwede maging negative 1. No? So, ano pa? Yung group 4 natin, especially mga carbons. No? So, silang usual charge nila ay negative 4. No? So, negative 4 yan. Group 5, yung mga family ni nitrogen, no? Yung hilera niya, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, no? So on and so forth. Ang kanilang charge usually ay negative 3. Group 6, family ni oxygen to. Kanilang charge usually ay negative 2. Group 7, ang family ni fluorine, negative 1 yung charge yan. And group 8, wala silang charges, no? Okay? So, yan lang. Sir, paano nga ba uli naging ganyan yung numbers? Paano naging negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, no? So, remember last time, our lesson is that they will accept electrons for them to be stable, no? So, if you are a group 7 element, no, isang electron na lang kailangan mo para maging noble gas. So, by accepting 1 electron, you become negative 1 in charge, no? Itong group 6, 2 steps siya from the noble gas. So, it will accept 2 electrons. So, its charge is negative 2. So on and so forth. Na. So, yun lang. So, you should be able to remember all those stuff. No? Kaya binibring up ko siya parate. No? Okay, so that's how you obtain the charge of the monoatomic anions and that's how you name them. No? So, ganun ha. Just remember, yung group number that will tell you a lot, no, about the charge of the atom. Okay, so pag an ion na monoatomic, it will end with ide, no. So yun. Let's have the next rule. Itong next rule medyo tricky for some, pero kaya nyo to. Teka lang. Okay, so yan. Lobat eh. So let's have this na. So the second rule concerns the polyatomic anions. So previously we have monoatomic, meaning isang atom lang. This time we have poly, marami. So more than one atom. No? So one of the anions na polyatomic ions ay yung may mga oxygen, which we call the oxyanions. No? So again, when your polyatomic anions contain nitrogens, I mean oxygens pala, no? So if they contain oxygens, we call them oxyanions, no? So marami nito sa kalikasan, no? Okay. So paano natin malalaman, sir, kung yan ay oxyanion? Madali lang. Pag monoatomic, ano yung ending? Ide, no? Pag polyatomic, ang ending nila ay ate and ite, no? So 8 and 8, no? So yan yung mga ending nila, 8 and 8, no? Example, ammonium nitrate, no? Yung nitrate doon, yung nasa Beirut again, no? Yung nitrate nun, meaning nun, oxyanion yun na may oxygens, no? And nitrogen, no? Okay, so ganun. So yun, mga oxyanions yung mga ate and ite natin, no? So 8 and 8, no? Okay. So sir, ano yung distinction between the two? Between the 8 and the 8, no? So we say that the suffix is 8 if it is the most common oxyanion, no? And 8 is the oxyanion version that is one oxygen less than the common. So, sir, ano yung common? Yung common oxyanions, they are given naman, no? So you don't have to worry. They are on the next slide, no? Okay? So, good. So yung mga ate, yung mga common na yan, given na yan, no? So, wag na kayo mag-worry. Nasa next slide yan, no? So, yan. So, sabi nila, for nitrogen oxyanion, this is the formula of the common, no? NO3 minus. So, yan. So, ano yung magiging name yan? You just get the first element, which is nitrogen, and you add the suffix ate. Nitrogenate, no? Pangit yung nitrogenate. Gagawin mo, nitrate, no? For example, sulfur. Ito daw yung common oxyanion. SO4, negative 2. So, hindi siya magiging sulfurate, no? Ang name niya would be sulfate, no? So, yan. So, this is the common. Nitrate, sulfate, no? You just remember the subscripts and the charges, no? So, ito yung NO3 minus, nitrate ang pangalan niya, SO4, negative 2, sulfate ang pangalan niya. How about the ite counterpart, no? So, yung ite counterpart. Zoom in tayo. So, let's check, no? Between ate and ite, look at the formulas. Yung ite, yung ite natin, this is one oxygen less than the common, no? Isang oxygen yung nabawas sa kanya from the ate version. Ito, tatlo to. Ito, naging dalawa. So, kapag ganun yung case, kapag nabawasan lang siya ng isang oxygen, you change the suffix to ite, no? So, hindi na siya nitrite, no? Magiging name niya ay nitrite, no? Same as this one. Ito, 4 na oxygens. Pagdating dito sa baba, 3 na lang. So, instead of naming this sulfate, no? We name this as sulfite, no? Ite. So, yan. So, again, ano uli yung distinction between the two? Ate, these are the common oxyanions. They are given, no? So, you don't have to worry, na. Given na yun sa next slide. Ano yung ite? Yung ite, no? So, they are just one oxygen less than the common. Tignan nyo lang yung common. Gagawin yung reference point yung commons niya. So, yung common, bawasan mo ng isang oxygen, then you have the ite counterpart, no? Ito, 4 yan. Gawin mo 3. You have the sulfite counterpart. So, ganun lang. So, ano sir yung mga ano natin? Ano yung mga oxyanions natin? Ito. You can take a screenshot, no? Pero nasa PowerPoint to, no? Just download the PowerPoint na lang. So, yan. So, isa-isayin natin to, no? So this is the common oxyanion for carbon, CO3, -2. We name it as carbonate. No? Siyempre, pangit naman kung carbate lang pangalan niya. No? So carbonate. No? Ito yung mga nasa baking soda. Ito rin yung nasa dolomite. No? Ang calcium magnesium carbonate. No? So may mga carbonates doon. Para sa mental health natin. No? So yan. So carbonate, CO3, -2. You remember the formula. You remember the subscripts, ha? And the name, no? Ano yung sabi dito? It does not have ith counterpart, no? So ibig sabihin, if we remove one oxygen here, walang molecule na gano'n, no? Hindi nag-exist yung molecule na yan. No? So yung carbonate natin, as is na siya, no? Isa lang siya. Siya yung bukod tanging oxyanion na walang counterpart. Okay? So ganun lang. So carbonate, siya lang yan. Happy na yan, no? Next one, we have NO3. Ito yung kanina, nitrate, no? So yan yung common, no? And sabi natin kanina, this can have an ith counterpart, no? Just remove one oxygen. So magiging formula mo, NO2 minus, no? So its name will be nitrite na. Nitrite. Okay, so yan lang. Hanggang dyan lang siya. Nitrate, NO3, nitrite, NO2 minus, no? So yan. So, kabisaduhin nyo na lang or i-familiarize na sarili nyo. Kayo bahala, no? So let's have next one. For phosphate naman, na for phosphorus oxyanion, no? So we have PO4 -3, no? So ano magiging name niyan? Phosphate, no? Ate kasi ito daw yung common. PO4 -3. Pwede rin natin tukunan ng ite counterpart, no? Ite. No? So bawasan lang natin ng isang oxygen. So its name will be phosphate, no? So hindi na siya phosphate. Phosphate na siya. Okay? So ganun lang. Let's move on. SO4 -2. So name niya is sulfate, no? Bawasan natin siya ng isang oxygen. Ang sabi ng pusa, yan daw ay sulfite, no? So ganun, no? Nakikinig kasi yan ng lessons dito. So yan. So yan, so bawasan mo lang ng isang oxygen yung SO4, you will have sulfite, no? So ganun lang. So again, by just looking, no, kailangan alam niyo yung reference, no? Kailangan alam niyo yung common oxyanion. Then alam niyo dapat din kung kailan sila nagbabawasan, no? So yan, ito na yung mga yon, no? So kabisaduhin niyo na lang para para mas mabilis, no? So yan yung mga yon. Next one, we have chlorate, ClO3 negative, no? So chlorate. Ano yung note dito? Chlorate is extendable up to 4 versions. Ay, bulaga, no? Bulaga. So hindi lang siya dalawa, no? Ibig sabihin hindi lang pala ite yung meron yan. May dalawa pa, no? So yan. So sometimes our oxyanion can have more than 2 versions. Ito dalawang version lang yan, eh. Isa, dalawa, di ba? Pero it can have more than 2 versions, no? And that is usually found for ClO3, no? So ano yan, no? Sabi dito, some oxyanions can be extended to form 4 members. We add the prefix per. If may added oxygen siya, then the common, and prefix hypo if it is 1 oxygen less than the ith version. Okay, so balikan natin dito. Yan. Ito na lang, zoom na lang natin. So remember, ClO3 is the common, so it will have the suffix ate, no? Chlorate, no? Bawasan mo yun ng isang oxygen, so yung 3 magiging 2. Its name will be ite, chloride, no? So ate, ite. Ano yung extensions na dalawa pa, no? So ito daw, no? One case is that you can add one more oxygen plus 1 oxygen. So, pag nagdagdag ka ba daw ng isang oxygen and that molecule exists, no? Ang gagawin mo daw ay lalagyan mo siya ng prefix na per. Copying the previous name, no? So, this is the previous name, chlorate. Pag dinagdagan mo ng isang oxygen, its name will now be perchlorate, no? So, by adding 1 oxygen, using ko yung sulat ko, plus 1 oxygen, you will add the prefix per, no? Copy mo pa rin yung chlorate, no? Pero pag nagdagdag ka ng isang oxygen, you will attach the prefix per, no? Parang super daming oxygen per chlorate, no? So, yan. No? So, ano yung difference? Ito, mas mataas siya ng isang oxygen kaysa dito. Okay? So, ano naman yung isa pang extension sa baba ni ite? No? Kung kanina nag-plus 1 tayo, ngayon magma-minus 1 naman tayo. No? So, let's have this. No? The name of this ion, ito si LO2, chlorite, di ba? So, if we deduct one oxygen again, no? So, ano gagawin natin? So, di ba sa taas naglagay tayo ng prefix na per. Ngayon, maglalagay din tayo ng prefix pero hypo ang gagamitin. No? Okay, so yan lang. So, yan. So, again, you have your common, chlorate. One oxygen less than the common, chlorite. No? So, isa lang yung difference nila. If you add one oxygen to your ate, you will have perchlorate, no? Per ate, no? May per na prefix na. Pero kapag nagbawas ka ng isang oxygen sa ite, you will have the prefix hypo naman, no? So, ano yung antas ng oxyanion? Ano yung mga antas, no? Pinakamataas yung per ate, sumunod yung ate, sumunod yung ite, then sa pinakababa yung hypo ite, no? Yan. Hinighlight ko na red yan, no? Para mas madali ninyo makita yung differences, no? Okay, so yan. May notes din ako na nilagay sa PowerPoint, no? So, yan. You can just remember them, no? Pero mas maganda yung alam nyo yung yung mga ideas, no? So, pag ito nagdagdagan ng isang oxygen, lagyan mo ng per. Ito, pag nabawasan, lagyan mo ng hypo, no? So on and so forth, no? Okay, so last rule na tayo for anions, no? Medyo malapit na tayo matapos. Okay, so the last rule for anions is this one, no? Remember your oxyanions, no? Yung mga carbonate, phosphate, no? We can actually add hydronium ions to it, no? Pwede natin sila dagdagan ng H+ or hydronium ions, no? Okay, so ano sabi dito? Rule number 4. Anions derived by adding H+ to an oxyanions are named by adding as prefix. Di ba? Lutang ako nung nag-type ako niyan. Hindi ko na alam kung ano yung pinagta-type ko niyan. Ganito lang ang idea, no? If you add H+, no? If you added 1H+, no? Plus 1H+, maglalagay ka daw ng prefix na hydrogen or bi. So, yan. Pag naglagay ka ng isang H+ and you still ended up with with an ion pala, no? With another anion, you will attach the prefix hydrogen or bi. Pag dalawang H+ yung dinagdag mo and you still ended up with anions, no? Your prefix will be dihydrogen naman. Okay? So, yun yung idea. So, paano yun, no? So, ganito. Let's look at carbonate, no? So, carbonate, CO3, -2. If we add 1H+ here, paano yun, sir? Pagsamahin mo lang. Isama mo to sa formula niya. Yung H, ilagay mo sa CO3. So, you will have HCO3. Then, ano po gagawin sa charges? No? So, ito -2, ito +1. You just combine them. No? -2 plus 1, -1. So, the resulting molecule is HCO3 negative. No? So, is that an anion? Yes. No? Negatively charged. So, anion pa rin yan. No? So, paano yung naming yan? No? So, you just copy the name of your oxyanion. Copy mo yan. Pero, maglalagay ka ng hydrogen or bi. No? So, yan. Mag-a-attach ka ng ganyan. Hydrogen o kaya bi. So, pag isang hydrogen lang yung dinagdag, maglalagay ka ng prefix na hydrogen or bi. Okay? Dun sa name ng iyong oxyanion. So, let's do that again for phosphate. So, to sa phosphate, I will add H+. So, anong gagawin ko? I will just combine the H with the other atoms. HPO4. Yung charge, pagsasamahin ko lang din. So, this is -3 plus 1, -2, no? Inisip ko pa, pero nakatingin lang ako sa screen. -3 plus 1, -2. Okay, so as you can see, we just added one hydrogen. So, we will attach the prefix hydrogen or the term bi, no? So, yeah. So, its name will be bicarbonate, biphosphate, pwede ring hydrogen carbonate, pwede ring hydrogen phosphate, no? So, any of the two are acceptable. Hydrogen carbonate or bicarbonate, no? Basta alam nyo, ang meaning ng bi, isang hydrogen. No? Yung dinagdag mo, isang hydronium ion. Okay? So, yan. You can do this multiple times. Basta anion pa rin yan. No? Pag hindi na yan anion, mali na yun. No? Okay? So, tingin tayo dito sa next part. No? Yung kadugtong niya. Let's consider HCO3 or the bicarbonate, yun nasa baking soda. Is it possible if I will add another H plus here? Will I still end up with an ion? And I can use the dihydrogen carbonate. Pwede kaya yan? Tignan natin, no? So if I add another H plus to our bicarbonate ion, maging dalawa na yung kanyang H, no? So H2CO3 na yan. Then look at the charge, no? This is -1, this is +1. So pag pinagsama, 0. Question, is this an anion? No, no. So this is not an anion. So, hindi natin gagamitin yung dihydrogen carbonate, no? So, hindi natin gagamitin yan, no? Hindi ganyan yung name niya. Bakit, no? Kasi again, no? Specific tayo sa, clearly stated sa rule, no? Na kailangan, pag nag-attach ka ng H+, anion pa rin yung resulting product mo. Anion pa rin yung resulting substance mo. Okay? So, this time kasi, kay carbonate, pag nag-add pa tayo ng isa pang H+, mawawala yung charge. So, hindi na siya an ion, no? So, you will not name this as dihydrogen carbonate. Iba yung naming dito. Okay? So, X yan. No? Cancelled. So, that means hanggang HCO3 lang tayo. No? Hanggang bicarbonate lang tayo for the carbonate oxyanion. Okay? So, let's have biphosphate. So, si biphosphate, if I add H+, ano mangyayari? H2PO4. Pero look, no, the charge is -1 overall. This is -2 plus 1, -1. Okay, so we still ended up with an ion, no? An ion yan. Check, no? So an ion, check yan. So that means we can use the convention. So if we added 2 hydrogens na, ito yung second hydrogen, no? Second H+. So, since we added the second hydronium ion, we will use the prefix dihydrogen na. No? Pag isang hydrogen lang, ano yung prefix? Hydrogen or bi. Pag dalawa na, dihydrogen. Sir, may tatlo ba? Wala na. Hanggang dalawa lang. Hanggang dalawa lang yung maximum. Okay? So, yan. So, yan. It's okay if you remember the rules, no? And it is also okay if kabisaduhin nyo na lang yung names ng ions natin. Don't worry, in the last part may shortcut dito. Okay? Ito yung shortcut. Tapos na tayo. So, ano yung shortcut? Just look at this table. Andito na yung mga ions na gagamitin natin for this lesson. No? So, yun na. So, you can memorize this or you can check nyo yung naming nila. No? So, okay lang. Kayo bahala. No? May academic freedom naman tayo. And yun nga, I will allow you to look on your notes naman. Siyempre, nasa bahay kayo. Hindi ko naman kayo pupuntahan isa-isa, no? So, yan. So, yan. It will be okay, no? It would be better if kabisado nyo na siya. Pag hindi pa kabisado, then take time, no? Para makabisado nyo yan, no? Bakit kailangan kabisado, no? Para mas mabilis mag-solve, no? No. So, yun lang yung importance niya. Para mas mabilis mag-solve, no? Mas, kunwari, tumingin ka sa likod ng packaging ng sabon, no? Or ng vaccine, no? Or ng gamot, makikita mo, uy, ito yung formula niyan, no? So, ganun. Yun yung good thing with us, no? Na scientifically literate, no? So, isang tingin mo lang sa packaging sa likod, alam mo na yung mga formulas nila, no? Cremil S, tignan mo yan, nakalagay dyan. Aluminum hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide. Alam ko na yung formula niyan, AlOH3 as MgOH2, no? So, yan. So, yan, at least di ka madaling ma-fake news, no? Bakit, no? Kasi mamaya, sa dulo ng lesson na to, pakita ko yung importance ng topic na to. Especially na marami ngayong anti-vaxxers, no? Maraming anti-science, no? So, ang goal natin is not to be like them, no? But to educate them. So, kabisaduhin nyo na to. This is one way of educating the people, no? Pakabisaduhin mo sila ng mga ganyan. Okay? So, yan. Pero you can look at this table naman pag nag-quiz kayo. No? Kayo bahala. Nasa bahay naman kayo eh. Okay? So, yan. So, we are able to name our cations and our anions. No? So, medyo maraming rules. Apat-apat. No? So, kaya yan. No? So, again, ano yung rules sa cation? No? Mabilisan tayo. Rule number 1. Pag isang charge, name of ion is equal to name of metal. No? So, yan yung rule number 1. Rule number 2, ano yung sumunod na rule? Multiple charge. Multiple charge. Ito yung stock, no? Stock. Paano yung sa stock method? Copy mo yung name ng metal. Metal plus the charge in Roman numerals, no? So, yan. Enclose in parentheses, no? So, yan. Rule number 3. Ano yung rule number 3 doon? 2 charges lang. Ano kukunin mo? Root name plus the suffix us or ik, na? So, yan. So, alam nyo na. Then, ayan. Then, rule number 4. Dalawa lang yan. Oo na, ming. NH4, which is ammonium, and H+, which is hydronium, na? So, kabisaduhin nyo na lang yung mga yan. No? Okay. Hinahanap niya yung baby niya. Then, for anions, 4 lang din na rule. So, basic lang. No? Number 1, monoatomic anions. So, ano yung meron sa monoatomic anions? They will have the ending ide, no? Ide. Number 2, oxyanions. Ang common ay may suffix na ate. Ang 1 oxygen less than common. Ano yung suffix niya? Ite, no? So, yan. Rule number 3, ito yung extended, no? Extended. Plus 1 oxygen kay ate. Pag plus 1 oxygen kay ate, you will attach the prefix per. Super ilalagay ko eh. Paisip din ako eh. Tapos kapag 1 oxygen minus kay ite, you will attach the prefix hypo. Okay? Then ano yung rule number 4? Yun yung H+, no? 1 H+ added, you will attach the prefix hydrogen or the prefix bi. Pag dalawang H+ yung dinagdag mo and you still ended up with an ion, dihydrogen na yan. Okay? So, madali lang, no? Easy lang. As long as alam nyo yung mga formulas ng ions nyo, no? And, yun. So, I will give you time, no? Natagal-tagal pa naman yung deadline ng quiz 3. So, kabisaduhin nyo na lang yan, no? Or, yun. Just look at the table, no? Okay, bahala. Okay. So, now, let's proceed, no? So, alam natin that our cations and our anions, they will combine to form ionic compounds. Na? So, in combining positively charged particles with negatively charged particles, they should be in the right proportions. No? So, ibig sabihin tama yung numbers ng positive sa negative for the reason that kailangan walang net charge. No? Kailangan 0 yung net charge. Kasi never ka naman naka-experience na hinawakan mo yung asin na kuryente ka. No? Walang ganun, di ba? Kasi walang net charge yung ions doon, no? So, meaning nun, equal yung dami ng positive sodium sa negative na chlorine atoms, na. So, equal yung dami nila. Kaya hindi ka nakukuryente pag hinahawakan mo sila. Okay, so yun yung idea for ionic compounds. There should be enough number of cations and anions. They are in right proportions, so there will be no charge in its final form, no? Okay, so paano natin makukuha yung tamang proportion nila? So, the proportion, tumataas yung boses. Yung proportion nila, madali lang yung kunin, no? Paano? By just crisscrossing the charges, no? You crisscross the number of charge, no? Paano yun, no? So, kuha tayo ng mga examples, no? So, let's have this, no? Na plus and Cl minus, no? So, when I say charge, yun yung mga nasa taas, no? Itong positive 1, itong negative 1. Pag wala nakalagay na 1, 1 yon. Okay? Kunwari, plus lang nakalagay, tapos may minus lang na nakalagay. Meaning, positive 1 yan, tapos negative 1 to. So, paano yung crisscross, no? When you say crisscross, you bring down the charges to the opposite side of to the opposite atom, no? Gagawin mo siyang subscript. So, from superscript to subscript, no? Mula sa taas, ilalagay sa baba. So, ganun. Ano yung ilalagay sa baba? Yung number lang. Hindi kasama yung symbol, Hindi kasama yung positive, hindi kasama yung negative. Yung number lang, okay? Ibig sabihin na to, yung 1 ni sodium, ilalagay ko kay Cl. Yung 1 ni chlorine, ilalagay ko kay Na. No? So, after doing the crisscross, I will have Na1Cl1. No? So, we do not write the subscript 1 kasi obvious daw yan. No? Siyempre, if you write the atom, that means may isang atom na yun doon. No? So, writing the subscript 1 is redundant na. No? Kasi pag sinulat mo yung atom, ibig sabihin nun, merong isang ganun doon na. So, pag isa yung subscript, burahin mo na lang, no? So, the final formula will be NaCl, no? Just remember that Na is positive 1, Cl is negative 1 in charge, no? Binabalang natin yung 1 dito, yung 1 dito, and yan, binura natin yung 1 kasi obvious na, no? Okay, so this is the formula for the compound composed of sodium ion and chloride ion. So, paano sila papangalanan? You just simply combine the metal name and the anion name. The cation name and the anion name. So, ang cation ay sodium, ang anion ay chlorine or chloride pala. So, ano yung name nila? Ay sodium chloride. No? So, ganun lang. Ano yung formula? NaCl. So, ganun lang. Another example would be this one. CaBr minus. So, Ca2+, ito ay calcium ion. No? So, ang name niyan ay calcium ion or calcium. Br-, this is monoatomic anion. So, its name will be bromide. No? So, this is calcium, this is bromide. So, ano yung name nila? Calcium bromide. No? So, ganun. Paano yung formula? Crisscross. So, yung 2 dito sa taas, you will bring it down, no? Kay bromine. Bababa mo yan, no? From here, lalagay mo siya dun sa baba ni bromine. Yung 1 dito, ilalagay mo dun kay calcium, na. So, yan yung crisscross. So, again, yung 2 kay calcium, napunta na kay bromine sa baba, naging subscript na siya. Yung 1 ni bromine, naging subscript na ni calcium. And then, again, kapag may 1, burahin mo na lang, no? So, the formula is CaBr2. So that means for every calcium, may dalawang bromine, no? So yan yung proportions nila. Okay? So the name of the compound is calcium bromide with the formula CaBr2. No? Okay, so let's have another example. No? Ba2 plus and O minus. So Ba2 plus, ang name niyan ay barium ion. No? Ang O minus 2 ay oxide. No? Monoatomic anion yan. No? Okay. So crisscross, no? So, yung 2 dito, lalagay mo sa baba ni oxygen. Yung 2 doon, lalagay mo sa baba ni barium. Okay, so what can we notice is that barium has a 2 subscript. Oxygen has a 2 subscript, no? So, pares 2 yung subscript nila. So, ano gagawin natin doon? If you are able to reduce your subscripts in the lowest terms, gawin, no? I-reduce natin yan, no? So, pares silang 2. So, we can divide them by 2. So, magiging 1-1 na lang yun, no? So, or BAO na lang. Okay? But ito, keep in mind, no? Hindi porket BAO ang nakalagay, ay meaning nun, negative 1 si barium, ay, negative 1 si oxygen, and positive 1 si barium. Hindi ganun, ha? Remember that initially, oxygen is negative 2 talaga. Hindi siya negative 1. And barium is positive 2 talaga, no? Hindi sila tig 1, ha? 2 talaga yung original charges nila, no? That's why you really have to be familiar with the periodic table, no? Kailangan alam mo, group number 2 to, kaya ano to, positive 2. Ito, group number 6 to, kaya negative 2. No? So, yun. Wag magpalin lang, no? So, kailangan alam nyo talaga yung charges, okay? So yan lang. Okay, so the name is barium oxide, formula is BAO, not Ba2O2, ha? I-reduce to lowest term pa yan. Okay, so let's have the next one. NH4 and PO4, no? So NH4 plus, ang name yan ay ammonium. PO4, -3, ang name niyan ay phosphate, no? So the name of the ion is ammonium phosphate. So tapos na tayo sa naming. Ngayon, yung formula paano? Okay, ito yung tip ko sa inyo. If you have polyatomic ions, that means maraming atoms. Ito, polyatomic yan. Kasi ang daming atoms, oh. 5. Ito, 5 din, no? So, anong gagawin mo dito? Before you do the crisscrossing, you write parenthesis first, no? Maglagay ka muna ng parenthesis. Sir, paano ko gagawa ng parenthesis, no? Yung charge na sa labas. Yan. So, ilabas mo yung charges sa parenthesis, no? Ito yung parenthesis. Sir, bakit, no? Kasi ganito. Ito yung problem with other people, no? Hindi ko alam kung na-experience nyo rin to dati, no? Nung high school kayo. Kasi yung iba, ginagawa, yung 3, minumultiply sa 4. Mali yun, no? Yung number dito, minumultiply din dun sa 4 dun. Mali din yun, no? Pag ako nakakita ng ganung papel, nalulungkot na lang ako eh. Hindi, joke lang. Alam naman ng mga bata ko to eh. Sabi ko sa kanila, mga senior high ko, sabi ko sa kanila, pag nakakita kayo ng more than 2 atoms, lagyan mo more than 1 atom na, lagyan mo na ng parenthesis. Para hindi mo i-multiply yung charge sa baba. No? Huwag mo i-multiply sa loob yon. Nasa labas dapat yan ng parenthesis. No? Okay? So, ganun dapat, ha? Walang i-multiply. Ilalagay lang sa baba. Ha? Okay. So, sundan nyo yan, ha? Pag may nakita akong sagot na ganun, ako po. Kaya may parenthesis. Lagyan nyo yung parenthesis. So, ano uli gagawin? After writing the parenthesis, the charges, ilalagay mo sila sa baba ng parenthesis. Sa baba ng parenthesis, hindi sa loob, ha? Sa outer part, no? Nasa labas, sa baba, no? Okay. So, wala sa loob. So, yung 3 na to, hindi mo siya i-multiply kay 4. Ilalagay mo siya kay, dito sa parenthesis, no? Ilalagay mo dyan yung 3. Yung 1, ilalagay mo doon. Okay? So, you will have this NH4, close parenthesis 3, PO4, parenthesis 1. Okay? Huwag i-multiply yan, na ulitin ko ulit. Huwag i-multiply yan doon. Hindi yan NH16, no? Magugulantang na lang ako ng pag ganun, no? So, ganun. Nasa labas, ha? Okay, so be careful. So, yan. NH4, 3, PO4, 1. So, again, just like the previous rules, no? Kapag 1 lang yung subscript, pwede mo na burahin yung parenthesis, no? Pwede mo na burahin yung 1, pwede mo na burahin yung parenthesis. Okay? So, this is the final formula. Parenthesis, NH4, close, 3, PO4, no? Okay, so yan. But take note, dapat you should be familiar with the cations and the anion, no? This whole term is your cation. And this whole term is your anion. So, you should be familiar with the formula, no? So, hindi ito lang yung hindi yan yung hindi yan lang yung anion. Kasama yung phosphorus, ha? So, kailangan alam niyo yung itsura talaga ng formulas nila. Okay? So, again, number 1 tip, maglagay ng parenthesis. Number 2, yung criss-cross, yung number ilalagay sa labas ng parenthesis. Huwag sa loob. Okay? Then, kapag 1 yan, burahin mo na yung parenthesis na. Okay lang yan. Kahit ganyan yan. Okay? So, the name is ammonium phosphate. No? You just combine the name of the cation and the anion. And the formula is NH4, close parenthesis, 3, PO4. So, yun lang. Okay, so I have some few exercises here. Take some po. But I'm not going to answer all of this now because of the limited time that we have. We only have 42 minutes remaining, no? May isa pa tayong discuss na topic eh. So, ganito lang naman to, no? Ganito. Pag na-download nyo na yung PowerPoint, no? Ito yung tsura ng PowerPoint, no? Just go to the notes, no? Pwede nyo ito gawin sa cellphone nyo. Go to the notes and the answers are already posted here. May ngayon Twitter kanina pa. So, yan. Andiyan yung mga sagot sa mga items, no? Ayan. So, yan. So, magsasagot lang ako ng tig-2, no? Then, kayo na bahala sa iba. So, practice na yan, no? So, yun yung mga sagot, no? Pwede nyo naman i-download yan, no? Open nyo gamit phone nyo, okay lang din, no? Sige. Ba tayo bumukas sa ano? Magsasagot tayo ng 2, ha? Nasa ano to, nasa tawag doon? Sa modules, no? Chapter 4 yung name niya. Okay? So let's answer just two, no? Kayo na bahala sa iba, no? Okay, so name the following. Sige, mamimili ako At kunin ko yung 5 and kunin ko yung 9. Okay, so I will answer 5 and 9. So, copyin ko yung 5. Okay, so isip tayo. Saan kaya galing yung subscripts? Ang subscripts ay galing sa charges ng opposite atom. 'Di ba? So, ibig sabihin nun, yung 2 na to, saan yan galing? Kay oxygen, 'di ba? So, ibig sabihin, yung nandun kay oxygen na yun, negative 2 yung charge nun. So, ganun na. Pag nasa right side, negative, no? Pag nasa left side, positive. Ibig sabihin, itong 3 sa baba ni oxygen, saan yan galing? Kay chromium. So, since nasa left side yan, positive yan, no? Okay? So, ganun yung pag-trace. Ang tawag ko dyan ay reverse crisscross, no? So, paano uli yung reverse crisscross? Yung number sa baba dito, galing yun dun sa other side, no? Sa exponent ng kabila. Di ba yung usual crisscross pababa? Ngayon pataas yung tracing natin. Why is this important, no? Kasi kailangan alam mo yung charges ng iyong atoms, no? Para malaman mo yung tamang name niya, yung correct name niya. Okay? So, let's have this. So, chromium here is 3+. Oxygen is negative 2. O, yung oxygen, ano yan? Monoatomic anion yan, no? So, its name is oxide, no? And the charge is correct. Negative 2 yung charge ni oxygen, no? So, oxide yung name niyan talaga. How about chromium? We know that chromium is in the D block. Nasa transition metal siya. So, we will use the rule number 2, the stock method. No? Example ko to kanina, di ba, yung chromium. So, stock method tayo dito. So, paano yun? You copy the name, and then you will enclose in the parentheses the charge. No? 3 yan, so Roman numeral 3. So, its name is chromium 3 oxide. No? Pwede ba dyan, sir, yung common name? Hindi po. Kasi chromium have multiple charges na. Marami siyang charge masyado. So, you will not be able to use that. Na? Okay. So, yan. So, that's for number 5. Na? Number 9. Kopyahin ko lang. Okay. So, another tip here is for you to be able to recognize polyatomic ions. Kailangan familiar kayo with the polyatomics. Na? So, ano kaya mga polyatomic ions ko dyan? Yung HPO4, no? Ano yan? Yan ay phosphate na may hydrogen, di ba? Ito yung rule number 4. Sabi sa rule number 4, if we add hydronium ion to your oxygen ion and you have an ion pa rin, no? So, that's a polyatomic anion pa rin, no? So, yan. So, itong isang buong to, yan ay aking polyatomic anion. Sir, ano pwede gawin tip dyan? Anong tip mo dyan? Ganito, kailangan alam nyo yung metals niya. Or alam mo yung formula ng cation mo, no? For example, NH4Br. Alam ko yung NH4, ammonium yan. So, lalagyan ko yan ng parenthesis. Itong NH4, may parenthesis na yun, no? So, meaning nun, lahat ng natira, yun yung mga anions mo. Itong Na lang yan. So, ibig sabihin nun, yung H pati PO4 sa kanan niya, anion yun agad, no? So, ganun lang. Na is cation pala. Ano ba sinabi ko kanina? Hindi ko na maalala. So, yan ha. So, yan. You should be able to recognize your polyatomics, no? Look muna kayo sa cation. Kasi lahat ng matitira ay anion. Okay. So, wait lang ha. Hello po. Yes. Hello po. Speaking po. Wait lang, may tawag. Okay. Ay, ano? Opo. Hindi na po, ma'am. Na nag-check po kasi ako tapos hindi pa naman need sa ngayon. Kaya susunod na lang. Opo. Siguro po next time. Thank you po. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Ayun, sa globe. Ano yun naman yung globe? May ligman tawag. Mabagal naman ang internet. But anyway, sir, lagi po bang cation nasa right? Yes po. I mean, nasa left. Nalito din ako. Nasa left parata yung cations. No? Nasa right yung anions. No? So anyway, promotion na naman sila. So anyway, so yun, you should be able to recognize your cations first, no? Para alam nyo na yung natira ay anions. No? Okay, so yan. Then you do the reverse crisscross. No? Di ba may 1 dito sa baba? Pag hindi nakalagay, may 1 doon. So saan kaya galing yung 1 na yan? Originally, galing yan kay sodium. Okay? Yung 2 naman na ito, saan yan galing? Kay phosphate, negative 2. So yan, sulat mo muna yung ions mo. So you have Na plus and HPO4, negative 2. Ano, bago kayo magsagot, you check muna kung tama yung charges. No? So you verify. Paano ko sir verify? Titingin ako dito sa table. Okay, kaya handy din tong table na to. So tingin kayo, HPO4. HPO4. Ayun. Ito. So yun na, andun na yung name, di ba? HPO4, tignan mo yung charge, negative 2. So kailangan negative 2 din yung charge, no? Okay, so yan, negative 2 nga, no? Okay, so yan. So tama yung ating ions, no? So ngayon, we can name the ions na. Na is sodium. And yung HPO4, dalawa yung names niyan. Di ba phosphate yan? Tapos may isang hydrogen. So ano yung name nun? Pwede yung hydrogen, phosphate, or biphosphate na. Okay, so ganun na. Paano uli, sir? Na, tignan nyo yung yung oxyanion nyo, PO4. So, di ba nadagdagan lang siya ng isang H? Pag isang H lang yung nasa left side niya, hydrogen phosphate yon or biphosphate. Pag dalawa yan, kunwari 2 yan, kunwari lang, dalawa, no? Ano yan? Dihydrogen phosphate yung name yan. Okay? So, pero for now, isa lang yan. So, alam mo, kapag isa lang yung hydrogen na tinabi mo sa kanya, ang possible names niya ay hydrogen or bi. No? So, ganun lang. Ay, ba't ko sinara? Okay, so yun yung names natin. No? So, for number... Ayan, so ganyan na lang muna. Okay, for number 5, the name is chromium-3 oxide. No? And for number 9, that's sodium hydrogen phosphate or sodium biphosphate. No? So, yun. So, any of the two, correct yun. No? So, ganun. Okay, so let's have the next one. No? Teka lang. Ayusin ko ulit. No? Ayun, yung iba, practicein nyo na lang at home. No? Alam ko sanay na kayo dyan. No? Exercises. Identify the formulas naman. No? So, isa na, siguro dalawa na lang sagutan ko. 1 and 4. So, number 1, ferrous sulfate. No? So, ay, hindi pala naka full screen. So, anyway, ferrous sulfate. No? So, ano yung ferrous? No? Yan yung iron na may lowest charge, which is Fe2+. No? So, yan. Kailangan ma-recognize yung formula. Ferrous, Fe2+. Yan. Ang ferric, Fe3+. So, Fe2+ yan. Sulfate. Yan ay oxyanion ng sulfur na common. So, ano yung common oxyanion ng sulfur? Sulfate, di ba? Ang formula nun ay SO4, negative 2. So, kailangan alam niyo yung mga formula. If hindi kabisado, you can refer sa table naman. No? So, okay lang yan. Kailangan mag-refer sa table. Okay? So, ano ang susunod natin gawin? So, alam na natin yung ions. All we have to do is to do the crisscross. No? Parenthesis muna. Again, parenthesis kapag may polyatomics. Yung 2, ilalagay sa baba ni sulfur. Yung 2, ay ni SO4. Yung 2, ilalagay sa baba ni Fe. So, my final formula will be Fe2 SO4, 2. Look at the subscripts, no? So, I have 2 and 2. Yung nasa loob na subscript, hindi mo papakialaman yan, ha? Yung nasa labas lang. So, look at this, no? I have 2 and 2. No? I can reduce this to lowest terms, no? So, pwede ko yan i-reduce, no? Pag ganun. Again, yung nasa labas lang, hindi yung nasa loob ng parenthesis. Ha? Okay. So, itong 2 and 2, I can reduce that to 1. And again, kapag 1 na lang yan, you can simply erase the parenthesis and the number itself, no? So, ayan. So, this is the formula for ferrous sulfate. Ito yung nasa gamot natin sa bahay. Ayan. Mga pang-anti-anemic, no? So, FeSO4 yung formula niya. Okay, so ganun ha. If you can reduce the formula, if you can reduce the subscript, reduce it, no? So, yan. And yun, recognition lang always. Always recognize your formulas. Let's have calcium hydrogen carbonate. Oh, chop-chopin natin yung pangalan. Calcium. Ibig sabihin yan yung ating cation. So, Ca2+. Hydrogen carbonate. So, ibig sabihin ng formula niyan ay carbonate tapos may hydrogen sa harap. No? Ito yung carbonate tapos may hydrogen sa harap. Ngayon, ano yung charge niyan? Ganito. Di ba yung charge ng carbonate ay negative 2? Kung hindi nyo naalala, tingin kayo sa table sa PowerPoint. No? So, negative 2 yan originally. Pero since we added 1 hydronium ion, ano mangyayari sa charge? Mag-i-increase siya by 1. No? So, yung negative 2, magiging negative 1 na lang. So, HCO3, negative na lang yung kanyang formula. Pag hindi pa rin talaga kayo sure, kunwari, nagdo-doubt kayo, tingin na lang kayo dito, no? Hydrogen carbonate, hanapin mo dyan. Yan. HCO3, negative na. So, yan. Okay, so yan. Mas mabilis kapag kabisado nyo. Pero if you're doubting, just look at the table. It's okay. No? Then, yan. So, tama na yung ating mga formulas ng ating ions. All we have to do is to write parentheses for the polyatomics, no? Important yan. Then, ano gagawin natin? Yung 2 ilalagay sa labas ng HCO3. Yung 1 ilalagay sa baba ni calcium. So, the final formula will be Ca HCO3, 2. So, yan na yung final formula. Okay? So, wala na tayong i-reduce to lowest term dyan. So, yan. So, we're done. Yung ibang items, kayo na bahala. No? Andito naman yung sagot. No? Ayan. Andito. Ayan. I don't know if nakikita nyo, pero pag dinownload nyo yung PowerPoint, click on the notes, lalabas yung answers. No? Okay, so I will leave the other items for you as an exercise. No? Ano pa? Ang coverage lang naman ng quiz natin. Ba't tayo mag-full screen? Teka lang ha. So, ang coverage lang naman ng quiz natin is yung cations and anions, ionic compounds, and binary molecules. No? Okay. Ayun, full screen na. Okay. So, yun. So, kailangan alam nyo yung name ng cations, anions, no? And yung names and formula ng ionic compounds. No? So, we're pretty much done. No? May extension pa to. Ano yung mga extended topics dito? Formulas of acids, no? Formulas of bases, hydrates, no? So, etong mga to, I will leave this to you na lang as a reading material, no? Basa-basahin nyo na lang. Madali lang naman yung concept dito eh. Kapag acid kasi, your cation is only hydronium ion, no? H+ lang. So, ang paproblemahin mo na lang ay yung pangalan ng anion mo, no? Then, the number of H+ corresponds to the number of your charge sa anion mo. Okay? So, yun lang yung idea. Let's look. In sulfur, SO4, negative 2 yung charge nun. So, that means kailangan dalawa yung H+, no? So, kung ano yung number ng charge, yun yung dami ng H+. Negative 2 yan, so dalawa dapat. Kunwari, negative 3 yan, edi dapat tatlong H, no? And the rules are easy to follow naman, no? So, sundan nyo na lang yan, no? Although, hindi to kasama sa quiz, no? Hindi siya kasama. Pero mas maganda yung alam nyo na rin, no? Kaya nilagay ko dyan, eh. Although, hindi siya covered, no? Okay, so yun. So again, pag acids, ano yung cations? H plus lang. The number of H plus is equal to the charge of the anion. Na? So kapag 2 yan, negative 2, kailangan dalawang H plus. Pag negative 1, isang H plus lang. So on and so forth. Okay, so bases. Anong bases naman? Ang kanilang anion ay hydroxides lang. So ang poproblemahin mo na lang ay yung pangalan ng cation. No? So mas madali siya. So sundan nyo na lang yung naming rules. No? Hydrates, ano naman to? These are ionic compounds with water molecules. No? Siyempre, nagmo-moist yung mga molecules natin. So may water molecules sila. No? So, yan. So, you name the water, itong H2Os as hydrate, no? Then yung numbers, you use Greek prefixes, no? Mono, di, tri, tetra, hecta, penta, so on and so forth. Although, babalikan natin to pag nag-stoichiometry tayo, ha? So, ano na lang yan? Trivial information. So, ito mga trivial information. You can read this, no? For additional ideas, no? Formulas of acids, formulas of bases, and hydrates, no? So, yan. So, supplemental ideas na lang yan. Punta tayo sa focus, no? Binary molecules, no? So, when we say binary molecules, these are covalent molecules, no? Nakasulat na pala. So, kanina, na-discuss natin yung ionic molecules, no? Ang daming rules, di ba? Kasi marami talaga. Pero for covalent molecules, mas madali yung rules, no? Mas madali sila pangalanan, no? So in naming binary molecules, same process lang with ionic compounds, pero much easy. No? So ito yung question, no? Before we name them, kailangan may susundan muna tayong pattern. No? Kailangan may proper way of writing the formula. Kasi tignan nyo, bakit kaya dito sa formula na to, yung oxygen nasa dulo parate, no? Kasi, yun yung napagkasunduan, no? Na nasa dulo yung oxygen talaga. No? Terminal atoms parate yung oxygen. Okay, so kaya sila yung nasa dulo parate. Okay, so ayan. So, bago tayo mag-start ng naming, alamin muna natin how to write the proper formula. Okay, so ito yung rules sa proper formula. The element on the left side will be written first. No? Yung oxygen will be written last. No? So, always nasa dulo yung oxygen. Anything na nasa left ng periodic table ay yung first element. No? For example, H2O. Oxygen, always at the last. So, nasa dulo talaga yung O. Itong H2, si hydrogen ay nasa left side ng periodic table, di ba? So, siya yung mauunang element. So, H2O yan, hindi siya OH2. So, we write H2O as that, not OH2. Again, oxygen will always be the last. No? Nasa last dapat siya parate. Hindi dapat yan mauna. No? So, yan yung proper way of writing the formula. Okay. So, yan. So, tignan nyo rin to, no? Yung mga oxyanions natin, they follow the same pattern. No? Yung oxygen nasa dulo parate. No? And then yung remaining atom, sila yung nasa left. No? Ganun lang. Ay, may aso pala sa likod. Ay, naka. So, yan na. Yung oxygen nasa dulo. Tapos yung mga remaining atom, sila yung mauuna. Okay? So, yun yung pattern. Ano pa? Ito, second rule. Kapag daw yung elements mo, they are in the same group, that means nasa isang column sila sa periodic table, such as SO2. Sa periodic table, ang oxygen nasa taas, yung sulfur nasa baba, di ba? Okay. So, paano mo isusulat yung SO2? So, ganun pa rin, yung oxygen nasa dulo, then yung heaviest element, yun yung manguna, no? So, when we say the heaviest element, ito yung element na nasa baba ng group, no? The heaviest element will be written first, no? And as always, oxygen will be written lastly, no? Nasa dulo siya parate. So, it is written as SO2, not OS2. So, sulfur is heavier, so it will be the first element. Oxygen is always at the last. No? So, wala na tayong ano doon. Okay. So, bakit important na malaman natin yung proper way of writing the formula? Kasi ganito, no? May naming process for the first element and the second element, no? So, paano natin sila nine-name, no? Okay. So, madali lang, simple lang. Ito yung tatlong rules in naming. Yung second element ninyo, you will affix the suffix ide, the ide, no? Para siyang monoatomic anion, but this time walang ions. May second element ka lang talaga. So, yan. So, the second element will have the suffix ide, pero don't confuse yourself. Hindi yan, yourselves, hindi yan ano, hindi yan anion, ha? So, hindi yan anion. Ano yan? Second element lang yan. Okay? So, ide. Then, ano pa? You can use the Greek prefixes to indicate the number of the second element, no? This also includes the first element, no? Pwede ka gumamit ng Greek prefixes. Mono, di, tetra, so on and so forth. Pero, for the first element, wag gagamit ng mono, no? So, first element, wag gumamit ng mono. Ano lang pwede? Yung di, tri, tetra, so on and so forth, no? For the second element, pwede yung mono, no? Pwede yung mono. Okay, sulat natin dito. Second element, mono, check. Ang first element, ang mono ay X, no? So, hindi ka gagamit ng mono for the first element, only sa second element, no? Then, ano pa? So, if the second element's name begin with vowels, such as oxides, you drop the A and the O in the prefix, no? We are actually pertaining to the prefixes tetra and the mono prefix, no? For example, oxygen yan. Kunwari, dugtungan mo yung prefix ng oxide. Kasi siya yung second element, di ba? Oxide. So, ang sagwa daw kasi pakinggan, kapag monooxide yan, pati tetraoxide, no? So, how to resolve this issue daw, na para mas pleasing sa tenga, you remove the A and the O in the prefix, no? So, this is your prefix mono, you remove the ending O, no? Para ang basa dyan, monoxide na lang, hindi na siya monooxide, no? Para pleasing sa tenga, no? So, ito, tetraoxide, yung A daw, buburahin natin, no? So, we will name that as tetroxide, no? Hindi siya tetraoxide. Okay? So, ayan. So, let's check how the rules apply, no? Sa ating examples here. So, ayan. So, we have 4 examples, NF3. So, ilang nitrogen? Isa. Can we use the mono? No. Bakit hindi pwede mono? Kasi nitrogen is the first element. Again, for the first element, you do not use the mono. Pwede yung di, pwede yung tri. Wag lang mono. Okay. So, hindi siya mono-nitrogen. Nitrogen lang yan. Then, look at the second element. Tatlo yan. So, tri. Then, it should end with ide, no? Ide, no? So, trifluoride, no? Nitrogen, trifluoride, NF3. No? Let's look at the other one, Cl2O. Okay, so Cl2, dalawang Cl yan, dalawang chlorine, so dichlorine. Isang oxygen lang yan, so monoxide. Hindi siya monooxide. Again, we already removed the O sa mono. No? Pag oxygen yung katabi. Pag oxide na. So, yan. So, dichlorine, monoxide. Let's have this one. Dinitrogen, tetroxide. No? Dalawang nitrogen, so dinitrogen. We have 4 oxygens, so it's not tetraoxide, no? It's tetroxide. You remove the A, no? Burahin mo yung A sa Greek prefix. Yung A and O lang. Okay? And lastly, we have P4S10. That's tetra, phosphorus, decasulfide, no? 4 na phosphorus, 10 sulfur na second element, no? So, P4S10. Okay. So, mas madali lang siya, no? Basta alam mo yung Greek prefixes, no? Ito, sagutan ko lang siya really quick, no? Yung answers naman dyan, sa PowerPoint lang din. Pero, sagutan ko na, no? SO2. So, my first element is sulfur. Pero, syempre, hindi ko ilalagay yung mono kasi bawal. So, ilalagay ko lang sulfur. So, hindi siya monosulfur, sulfur lang. The second element is oxygen na dalawa. So, dioxide na. Ide, meaning second element siya. Di kasi dalawa yung second element natin. So, yan, I'm done. Sulfur dioxide. PCl5, no? PCl5. P, hindi siya monophosphorus. Again, first element yan. You do not use the term mono. So, ano lang yan? Phosphorus lang yan. Phosphorus. Cl5, no? 5 chlorine. May ide yan kasi second element yan. Then 5, ano ba yung 5? penta, no? Pentachloride, no? So, yan, pentachloride, no? Ayan, so yan. 5 chloride, no? So, 5 Cl. Phosphorus, pentachloride. N2O3. Ito, 2 nitrogen. So, I can use Greek prefixes na. 2, di. So, this is di, nitrogen, trioxide, no? So, yan. Sir, hindi mo mabuburahin yung A and O. Hindi naman yan A and O. Eh, no? Pag I, okay lang. No? Trioxide talaga basa dyan. Hindi siya troxide. Ah. So, trioxide. Again, yung A and O lang yung binubura. No? And number 4, silicon tetrabromide. Silicon. So, Si lang yan. Tetrabromide. Meaning noon, 4 na bromine. Br4. Carbon dioxide. So, ibig sabihin niya isang carbon and 2 oxygen, CO2. Carbon monoxide, CO lang. So, ganun lang ka-easy yung naming sa binary molecules. Again, how do you name binary molecules? First, you identify the proper way of writing the formula, no? So, ano yung proper way of writing the formula? Oxygens are always written lastly. Nasa dulo sila parate. And the element heavier, sila yung nangunguna, or the element on the left side of the periodic table, sila yung mauuna. So yan, 2 lang naman yung rules dyan eh. Then after that, you can identify kung sino yung first element, sino yung second element. No? Then you apply these 3 basic rules. No? For the first element, you will not use the Greek prefix mono. Pwede yung di, pwede yung tri, pero wag yung mono. No? Then, the second element will have the suffix ide, ide. And then, kapag yung second element, ang prefix niya ay may A and O, tas vowel pa yung second element mo, you remove the A and the O sa prefix na. Such as this one, monoxide, not monooxide, and tetroxide, not tetraoxide. Okay? So, ganun lang. And yan na. Yan. So, we're done, no? Yung organic molecules next chapter, I mean, hindi siya next chapter. Sa finals period niya yan, no? So, medyo weird kasi naming sa organic compounds, no? So, yan. So, we're pretty much done with our objectives for today, no? So, what we covered are the naming of ions, cations, and anions, no? Ano yung na-cover natin? Pero identifying the correct formula by doing the crisscross, no? And then we are able to identify the name from the formula. Alamin mo muna yung name ng ions. Then you just combine them, no? Take note of the charges, no? Be careful. And then we are able to identify the formula from the names, no? So isa-isahin mo lang yan. Usually yung first name, cations yan, no? Cation yung ferrous, cation yung strontium, cation yung barium, calcium, potassium, nickel 2+, sodium, lead 2, silver, stannous. So yan ay mga cations. Anything left ay anions, no? So anion yung sulfate, nitride, sulfate, hydrogen carbonate, phosphate, perchlorate, cyanate, cyanide, bisulfite, bisulfate pala, nitrate, and dichromate na. So, tignan nyo na lang sila dito sa table. No? Kasi dito na naman halos lahat eh. Okay. And then, ayan, no? Itong acids and bases, these are trivial informations. Information, walang palang plural ang information. General na pala siya overall. So, yan, mga ano na lang to, trivial information. You can read this, no? Para familiar kayo with your acids and bases, no? Easy to follow lang naman yung rules dyan. Hydrates, ito may mga water molecules lang. Again, trivial information lang yan. Then, binary molecules, ito yung isang coverage pa ng ating quiz, no? So, yan. So, yan. Yung proper way of writing the formula and the rules, no, in naming. So, yan lang. So, next meeting, we will start discussing chemical reactions na, no? So, chemical reactions, medyo mahaba yan. So, 2 weeks uli yan, no? 2 weeks uli natin itong i-discuss. Ang dami, di ba? Ay, ang dami nga. So, yan. So, medyo mahaba-haba. It will be better if you will start reading this na. So, yun lang naman yung, ano, Yun na yung ending ng chapter 3, no? Yung ions formation, yung covalent molecules, then yung naming, no? So, important yung naming. Bakit? Napuntahan ko na kayo. So, search ko to. DHMO. Okay. So, ito yung nangyari sa United States, no? Dihydrogen monoxide parody. Okay. So, kailan to nangyari? 1983, April Fool's Day sa Michigan. So, anong ginawa nila dito sa Michigan? Sabi nila na yung government daw, no? Yung government, naglagay sila ng dihydrogen monoxide sa tubig, no? Tapos ano daw yung meron sa dihydrogen monoxide, no? It contributes to the greenhouse effects, it could cause severe burns, it could contribute to erosion, could accelerate corrosion, mga ngalawang daw yung mga bakal, no? May cause electrical failures and found to be in excised tumors in cancer patients. So ganito lang, no? If ikaw ignorant ka, magpapanik ka. Hala, nasa cancer pala 'yan. Ba't tayo nilagyan ng ganyan ng government, no? Ay, hala, bakit ito pa yung argument ng iba. Kung nakakalawang yung dihydrogen monoxide, ba't mo lalagay yan sa tubig mo, 'di ba? Ba't mo iinumin yan, no? 'Di ba? Medyo funny sila kasi ang dihydrogen monoxide, basahin niyo yung formula, dihydrogen H2 monoxide O, H2O, 'di ba? Ayun lang. Yan, ang isang molecule kasi marami yung name, no? For example, H2O, dihydrogen monoxide, pwede din siyang hydric acid, no? So, yan. Hydrogen hydroxide, ayan, yung iba't ibang names niya. Dihydrogen oxide, no? So, yan. So, ano lang yung information na pwede natin matutunan? Ano yung lesson na pwede natin matutunan sa pinagagawa ng Americans na to, no? So, the important lesson here is that yung ignorance ng science, it can actually cause harm, no? Pwede ka magpanic kapag ignorante ka sa science, no? Pag hindi mo alam yung names ng iyong compounds, no? So, kaya important yung lesson na to. You should at least memorize your ions, no? The naming rules, no? Para hindi ka mabiktima ng fake news, no? Kasi for example, yung mga vaccines meron pa yung mga mercury, mga timers wala. Basta yan, may mga mercury compounds doon, no? Pero, even naman sa dental amalgam, yung sa ngipin, yung mga bago magpasta, amalgam muna yun eh. Even sa ngipin, nilalagyan naman ng mercury yun, hindi naman namamatay yung tao, no? Kasi maraming versions ng mercury. May elemental, may organic, no? May inorganic mercury. Ang deadly doon ay yung um, ano ba yung deadly doon? Organic mercury, no? So, yung iba naman, hindi naman sila ganun ka-deadly, no? So, yun. So, kailangan alam niyo yung molecules niyo. Especially kayo, medtech kayo. Alam niyo naman ngayong panahon natin, maraming takot sa vaccine dahil sa Demvaxia scare, no? Tapos yung COVID vaccine, sasabihin pa nila, ay, ano lang yan, pinagkakakitaan lang yan ng ganito, ganyan. No? Hindi, no? Inform na lang natin sila na mali sila, no? So, mali sila ng pagkakaintindi kasi itong mga chemical name na to, ito yung corresponding formulas niyan, tapos ito yung ginagawa nila sa tao, no? So, yun yung importance ng lesson na to, no? Para hindi tayo mabiktima ng fake news katulad ng sa United States, no? So, medyo nakaka-disappoint, no? Kasi United States, tas madali sila mabiktima na ito, no? Ganun talaga, no? Minsan, hindi porket maganda yung bansa, ibig sabihin ay edukado yung mga tao, no? Tingnan mo, natakot sila dahil ano daw, nagkakos ng severe burns yung tubig. Malamang, pag pinakuluan mo yung tubig, masusunog talaga balat mo niyan. Nakakalawang daw yung tubig. Syempre, tubig yan. Ano mga isip natin dyan, di ba? Ginagamit daw siya sa nuclear power plant, of course, no? Cooling towers, andun yung water. Ano pa? Ayan, nakikita daw siya sa tumor-tumor. Syempre, no? Part kasi ng cellular process yung pag-release ng water molecules, no? Kaya mapansin nyo kapag may mga pigsa-pigsa na may water doon, no? Part yun ng mga chemical reactions na nangyayari, no? So, normal yan. So, yung mga ganyang bagay, hindi naman yan nakakatakot, no? pag alam mo. Pero pag di mo alam, doon ka magpapanic, no? And that ends the chapter 3, no, discussion. Ano yung importance na pwede natin makuha? Para hindi madala ng fake news, kailangan alam ang chapter 3, yung naming ions, molecules, no? So, kailangan alam niyo yung pag-name ng ionic compounds and binary compounds natin or covalent molecules. Okay, so yun lang. What else do I have to tell you? By the way, the quiz, no? Yung quiz natin, yung quiz 2 and quiz 1 ng lab, ay ng lecture, I might extend the deadline again, no? Until Sunday, hanggang bukas na lang because of the shutdown ng Canvas lately, no? Medyo nag-a-attention na yung Canvas natin. So, adjust ko ng one day yung deadline. So, Sunday evening na siya, 11:59 p.m. 11:59 p.m. para makasagot yung mga hindi nakasagot ng last time. And if you encountered problems Canvas, kunwari walang picture, kunan nyo ng picture nyo, take a screenshot, to send nyo sa akin sa Canvas, no, para ma-reconsider ko yung items nyo. Okay, so and by the way, no, take your quizzes seriously naman. Kasi tinitignan ko yung responses nyo. May mga nakakasagot in 10 minutes, no? Hindi ko alam kung 10 minutes. Ako kasi pag nag-answer ako ng quiz natin, mga 5 minutes or below lang. Siyempre, alam ko na yung nangyayari. Pero sa case nyo, take it seriously, no? Kasi, yun, recorded na, no? And malapit na tayo mag-midterm. That means malapit na tayo magbigayan ng grades, no? So, yun. Whatever your midterm grade is, that is just a reflection of your performance sa quizzes na. So, yan. So, galingan nyo na lang sa quizzes, no? And before the midterm, siguro may pa-surprise ako na matutuwa kayo. Hindi ko lang kung matutuwa kayo doon, no? Pero dapat matuwa kayo doon. So, yan. May bibigay ako sa inyong mga bonus stuff, no? So, basta bahala na, no? Hintayin nyo na lang yan. Mga bonus questions or additional points, no? Para matumaas yung scores nyo. Okay? So, yun lang. So, yun lang. We are 3 weeks from your midterm exam, no? So, remind ko lang, 3 weeks na lang midterm exam nyo na. So, study very well, no? Okay? So, the class recordings are uploaded naman sa YouTube, no? Okay, so with that, tapos na ako sa aking reminder at sa aking lesson, no? Okay, so